If you've ever listened to a piece of music that you love and you wanted to know why it sounded so good and what was going on, this series is going to give you the skill sets needed to be able to decipher that, work it out, and apply it in your own playing and your own music. So the circle of fifths system can be used to explain almost any chord progression in all of the music that you love. Let me explain why. So the circle of fifths is a method of organizing the 12 different pitches that we have in equal temperament tuning system. Fifths are clockwise, and typically speaking, pop songs, the harmony, the chords will move in fifths, whereas in jazz, the harmony and chords will move in fourths. So straight away, I'm going to give you a demonstration of popular song Hey Jude by the Beatles, and we're going to look at the movement of fourths and fifths within the verse of this chord progression. So here we go. F to C, that is a fifth. C to C, we're staying the same. C to F is going to be a fourth. Then F to B flat is another fourth. And then B flat to F, we have another fifth. F to C, we have another fifth. And then C to F, we finish with a fourth. So the verse of Hey Jude is comprised exclusively of fifths and fourths. So we have 3 fifth intervals and 3 fourth intervals. So that's an example of a chord progression following this natural flow through the circle of fourths and fifths. So a couple of other interesting things that you should know about the circle of fifths are fourths stacked together create a dark sound. So let me play fourth after fourth after fourth. So they create a dark sound, whereas fifths, if I do fifths over and over again, they give a bright sound. So if you go clockwise, bright sound. If you go anti-clockwise, a dark sound. So the third point we have already talked about. This follows the natural flow of chord progressions. And then the final point that I will talk about is as you move in the circle of fifths, we add 1 sharp at a time, like this, and as you move in the circle of fourths, we add 1 flat at a time. And this is to do with key signatures, so that you understand how to play in all 12 keys. So the last thing that I will leave you with is professional musicians use the circle of fourths and fifths to practice their scales and be able to play in all 12 keys. So I'm going to give a quick demonstration in which I play in 4 different keys. So I'm going to play a major scale in C, and then around the circle of fourths to F, and then keep going around to B flat, and E flat. So then musicians use that sequence to go through and practice all of their scales so that they can play in all 12 keys and transpose. So that's a crash course in the circle of fifths. The next time you listen to a song or learn a chord progression, see if you can find out if it's moving in fourths or fifths or something else. So how do you know what scale to play over what chord? Well, it's a technique called chord-scale relationships, and I'm going to share with you how to do it today. So as a jazz guitarist, I use 1 scale per chord, and that's called playing the changes. Now, in popular music, quite often you'll just play modally over the entire key, but you still need to understand what scale goes with what chord, and I'm going to share with you a technique so that you can know exactly what scale to play. So let's have a look at 1 chord to begin with. So the first one we're going to look at is a dominant 7th chord, and the best scale to use for that is a mixolydian, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Now, I'm going to show you a chart for almost all chords to get you started. So whenever you see a major 7 sharp 11, you can use a Lydian. Whenever you see a C7 flat 9 or a G7 flat 9 or an A7 flat 9, you can use an 8-note dominant. So this chart will get you through the majority of the different chords that you're going to see. So I'm going to give 1 example of 2 pages of these scales. So we already did the mixolydian. I'm going to show you the Dorian scale. So the Dorian scale is great to use over minor chords, and it is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. And then let's have a look at some more complicated scales, which were listed on that chart. And I'm going to give you 1 example from this. So if you are a jazz guitarist, you have to know the Locrian mode. You use it over a chord called the half diminished, or a minor 7 flat 5, means the same thing. So in the key of C, I'm going to play it 1 octave, and it is 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. So the final example I'm going to give is I am going to play a Phrygian scale in the key of G, and I'm going to be playing over this chord progression which is written out here for you in 13/4, and you can play along and improvise as well. So here's what the Phrygian mode would sound like. So there you have it. That was the Phrygian mode and an explanation of chord-scale relationships. Have you ever wanted to find the key of a song so you can shred and improvise solo over the top? Well, I'm going to teach you how to do that today. So if you've ever wanted to play lead guitar in a band and you want to find the key, this is how to do it. First, I'm going to show you how to do it with a blues shape. So you've got the pattern written here as well, and let's do it in C. So we're going to go from the 8th fret. So that's step 1. Step 2 is you need to slide around on the top string E or the bottom string E to find which note sounds like home bass. So let's say you're playing in a 12-bar blues, and you're trying to figure out the key. You simply just play a note. Okay, that's definitely not the tonic. Where is it? Where is it? Trial and error until you find the key. So we're in the key of G. And then all you do is improvise with that scale over the top. So let me improvise for one chorus. So now we're going to do that for major and minor tonalities. So for that, we need to know 2 more shapes. Here's our major shape. Let's play it from C again, from the 8th fret. So that sounds like this. We also need to know our natural minor scale, which sounds like this. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. So I have 2 more loops, and we are going to find out which key they're in. So here is example number 1. So we have to listen, choose a note, literally trial and error. So that's clearly not the right one, clearly not the right one, clearly not the right one. All of a sudden, we're in the key. So then you could try the different scales. Is it major or is it minor? How about we try minor? Definitely not. How about major? Perfect. So then you're in the key and you can improvise. Let me improvise for 2 seconds. And let's do one more. Okay, so same thing. Let's slide around. Where's the key? Voila, we have the key. So we're in E for this one. And let's check out a different scale. How about we try the minor first? Perfect, that's the key we're in. So to summarize, to find the key of a song, first, find the root note on the high E string, try the major scale, the minor scale, or the blues scale, and then you know what key you're in. So secondary dominants are a way of manipulating a chord progression to lead more smoothly to your target chord, and you're going to tonicize it and make it sound awesome. So I'm going to show you how to do that today, including the theory. So first of all, let's say you're in the key of C and you play a G7 and you go to C. You're just doing a regular dominant to tonic. But then let's say in the bridge of the song you want to go to F major. It would sound much clearer if you did a C dominant 7. So you go from the major 7 and change to a dominant 7, which will lead perfectly to that 4 chord, to that F major. And that's essentially what secondary dominants are. You take any chord, you turn it into a dominant so that you can more convincingly lead to the tonality that you are moving to. And this could be major or minor chords. So let's have a deeper look into the theory. So here we have a major key center. Let's talk about major first. And we have our scale tone chords. So we have 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 dominant, 6 minor, 7 half diminished, and then back to our 1 major again. Now, let's say we wanted to go to the 3 chord in a chord progression, and we wanted to lead there in a more convincing way. Normally, our B chord is a half diminished, right? And a half diminished doesn't sound good leading to a chord. It's not going to sound very good. So you could change it to a dominant chord. And let's look at one more example. How about you wanted to go to the 2 chord, the D minor, right? So in the key of C, the 6th chord is an A minor. It's not a dominant, but we want to have a dominant chord so that we can lead there in a more convincing way. So this is also a secondary dominant. So the way that this gets notated in music is this becomes the 5 of 2. So ordinarily the A minor would be called the 6, right? But this is no longer the 6. Because it's a dominant, and it's a secondary dominant leading to the 2, so we call it the 5 of 2. Now, the exact same thing happens in minor keys as well. So up here we have all of the chords in C minor, and then this is a combination that I like to use. So this is a combination of natural minor, melodic minor, and harmonic minor, showing the most common chords that you will see in a minor tonality. And then we have all of the secondary dominants that can lead to the relevant chords. So let's just do one example here and do the same Roman numeral analysis, and then we're going to look at Hallelujah, and you'll see a secondary dominant in that chord progression. So let's say we want to think about this chord, the E flat major. So normally, there's not even a B flat. There isn't even a dominant chord there. So we have created a dominant chord. We've created a 5 of flat 3. And that's how you would notate it in Roman numerals. So let's have a look at our final practical example. So we have Hallelujah here. We're in the key of C, and we're going from a 1 chord to a 6 minor to a 1 chord to a 6 minor to a 4 chord to a 5 chord, back to the 1 to a 5 chord, almost there. 1, 4, 5, 6 minor, 4, 5, and then here, ordinarily an E in the key of C would be an E minor, but we don't. We have a dominant chord, so we have the 5 of 6 minor leading to the 6th chord, and that leads there in a much more convincing way. So instead of this sound, we have this. Much more convincing. We're tonicizing that new minor tonality. So that is a quick crash course in secondary dominants. So drop 2 and drop 3 are a method of voicing 7th chords, and they're super, super important because they are the fundamental way and the most common way that you can play them on the guitar. So the 2 most common ways are with the 5th string tonic here, which is a drop 2, and the 6th string tonic here, which is a drop 3. So let's get into the theory of what actually makes these chords. So we're going to start with inversions first, which you have to understand. So we have our regular root position C major here. We have C, E, G, and B. And then with inversions, you take the C and you put it on top, and that's first inversion. You take the E and you put it on top, that's second inversion. You take the G, you put it on top, that's third inversion. And then if you do it again, you're back to where you started. Now these voicings are almost impossible to play on the guitar. So what guitarists do is they use drop 2. So let me explain to you what happens. You literally just take the second note from the top, so in this case a G, and pop it down an octave, and then here you have G, C, E, and B. And that's a drop 2. And if you do that for all of these patterns, if you take the second from the top, so this one is B, drop it down the octave, you have B, E, G, and C, and then you have a drop 2. So if you repeated that for all of those, you would have 4 different drop 2 voicings. Drop 3 is exactly the same. So you start with the inversions first in close voicings, and then instead of taking the second from the top, you're going to take the third note from the top, drop it down the octave, and there you have E, C, G, and B. That's going to be your first drop 3, and then you could repeat that pattern, and all of these become your drop 3 voicings. So here those inversions are on the guitar. These are the drop 2s. That's the first. Next inversion after that, and then we have one more, and then the entire pattern would start again. Let's now do the 6th string tonic. I'm going to start with the lowest inversion. Next one, and the next one. So you need to learn all of these in all 12 keys, and then you could come up with grooves like this using minor, drop 2, and drop 3. Have you ever wanted to find the key of a song so you can shred and improvise solo over the top? Well, I'm going to teach you how to do that today. So if you've ever wanted to play lead guitar in a band and you want to find the key, this is how to do it. First, I'm going to show you how to do it with a blues shape. So you've got the pattern written here as well, and let's do it in C. So we're going to go from the 8th fret. So that's step 1. Step 2 is you need to slide around on the top string E or the bottom string E to find which note sounds like home bass. So let's say you're playing in a 12-bar blues and you're trying to figure out the key. You simply just play a note. Okay, that's definitely not the tonic. Where is it? Where is it? Trial and error until you find the key. So we're in the key of G. And then all you do is improvise with that scale over the top. So let me improvise for one chorus. So now we're going to do that for major and minor tonalities. So for that, we need to know 2 more shapes. Here's our major shape. Let's play it from C again, from the 8th fret. So that sounds like this. We also need to know our natural minor scale, which sounds like this. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. So I have 2 more loops, and we are going to find out which key they're in. So here is example number 1. So we have to listen, choose a note, literally trial and error. So that's clearly not the right one, clearly not the right one, clearly not the right one. All of a sudden, we're in the key. So then you could try the different scales. Is it major or is it minor? How about we try minor? Definitely not. How about major? Perfect. So then you're in the key and you can improvise. Let me improvise for 2 seconds. And let's do one more. Okay, so same thing. Let's slide around. Where's the key? Voila, we have the key. So we're in E for this one. And let's check out a different scale. How about we try the minor first? Perfect, that's the key we're in. So to summarize, to find the key of a song, first, find the root note on the high E string, try the major scale, the minor scale, or the blues scale, and then you know what key you're in. How to find the note names on your guitar. Have you ever learned a song and just memorized it with finger patterns? Or you wanted to play different chords that someone was trying to teach you, but you didn't know the names on your neck? I'm going to show you how to do it. So here's a quick demonstration of the methodology of how you're going to be practicing this in 2 minutes. So E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. I was playing all of the white notes on a single string, and I'm going to share with you how to practice that. So it's going to be a 3-step method. You have to know 3 things. Number 1, the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and G, F, E, D, C, B, A. You have to be able to say it up and back. Number 2, your open strings are like an imaginary fret on your guitar. So 3, 2, 1, 0. You have to imagine that being a fret. And then number 3, between E and F is going to be 1 fret. Between B and C is going to be 1 fret. All other frets are going to be 2 frets. So let's start on our B string here. We got our open B. So our open B string, which is like an imaginary fret. And then fret number 1, because we're just going 1 fret to C, 2 frets to D, 2 frets to E, 1 fret to F, 2 frets to G, 2 frets to A, and then it would be 2 frets again to B. Now you could continue 1 fret to C, 2 frets to D, 2 frets to E, 1 fret to F, 2 frets to G, and 2 frets to A. And you can go backwards. A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B. So here is a display of all 6 strings and the white notes, but you should practice it 1 string at a time by yourself. And finally, you need to know about sharps and flats. So sharps and flats are the black notes on the piano, and they happen in between any of the white notes on the guitar. So every single blank space here is going to be a sharp or a flat. This first one is notated for you. It's going to be F sharp or G flat. Sharp means going up, flat means going down. So F sharp, G flat. I'm going to do 2 more. In between G and A is going to be G sharp and A flat. And in between A and B is going to be A sharp and B flat. So to summarize, you have to practice on all 6 strings going up and down the note names, the white notes and the sharps and flats, and then the next time you're playing music and someone says, can we play an A flat to a B flat to a C minor, and you know the note names, it's going to be super easy for you to find those chord shapes. How to read tablature. So tablature is a method of music notation specifically for the guitar that actually predates standard notation. So the reason this is important is because number 1, it's an easy way to get into playing guitar, but number 2, for more advanced guitar players, you can show specific notation just for guitar in terms of the position you're playing and the techniques you're using that you cannot display in standard notation. So let's get into it. Here's a common use example where we have downstrokes and upstrokes notated in the music. Now I'm going to show you exactly how tablature is written and how you can understand it. So first of all, there are 6 strings that represent the 6 lines that represent the 6 strings of guitar. So 6 lines, 6 strings of guitar, E, B, G, D, A, and E. And then at the start of the music, we have tab, which is short for tablature. So the numbers refer to the fret. So if you're on 0, it's just the string by itself. If you're on 1, it's going to be the 1st fret. If you're on 2, it's going to be the 2nd fret. Now, depending on the string that the number lands on is going to be which string you're actually playing. So this number is on the E string, so you're playing it on the E. This number is on the A string, so you're playing it on the A string. Now, the flow of time moves from left to right like this. So if you have a single note by itself, it just gets played alone. But as soon as you have more than one note happening at the same time, okay, stacked on each other, they get played together like this. So this chord at the end would also be played all together. We have this A minor. So aside from the downstrokes and upstrokes we saw, there's some additional guitar-only notation, such as hammer-ons, pull-offs, and slides. Let me play through these examples. So a hammer-on, a pull-off, and a slide. And we also have this, also a muted note as well. So I'm going to finish with one final practical example. So if you know how to read tablature, you can pick up music like this and play it straight away. Here we go. So there you have it. That's how to read tablature. How to read the treble, bass, and the grand staff. So I'm going to give one common use example here. So as a guitar player, you have to be able to read chord symbols and rhythms like this. And you also need to be able to read notes like this. And I'm going to share with you how to do that. So here is the treble, the bass, and the grand staff. This is what they look like. And the guitar uses the treble. And here are those note names. So you're going to have notes that are on the spaces and notes that are on the lines. And the easiest way to remember them is with these acronyms. So for the spaces, for the treble clef, you don't need to remember an acronym. It spells a name, face. For the lines, the most common acronym to remember is every good boy does fine. For the bass clef, which you need to know for piano or if you're playing bass, the spaces, the acronym is all cows eat grass. And for the lines, the acronym is great big dogs fight animals. Now, the grand staff is simply a combination of both of those. So face is going to be the same here for the treble clef, and then all cows eat grass is going to be the same for the bass clef. It's the exact same thing. Same thing with the lines. They're both going to repeat. So an application to guitar, it's important to understand that the guitar sounds one octave lower than written. So if you want a guitar player to play middle C, you actually have to write this C one octave higher. If a guitar player sees this C, they will play this C, middle C, like that. So that's important to keep in mind as you write for guitar. So I'm going to give one final example. Once you have mastered this and you can read notation on the guitar in treble clef, you'll be able to play things like this. I'm going to play the first line of Amazing Grace. So there you have it. That's how to read treble, bass, and the grand staff. How to transpose a song. How to change keys is an essential skill, especially if you're going to be playing chords for a singer. You're going to have to be able to change keys. So I'm going to give you a common use example and show you exactly how to use it. So happy birthday. You're going to be singing that every year for the rest of your life, at least a few times. So if you're going to play chords for it, you have to be able to change keys depending who you're playing with. So the chords for Happy Birthday are going to be a 1 chord to a 5 chord, a 5 chord to a 1 chord, and then a 1 chord to a 4 chord, and then 1, 5, 1. Now, to understand how to do that in all 12 keys, you have to know the number system. So you have to know it in major and minor. So here's the number system in major. We have C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G dominant, A minor, B half diminished, and C, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. You also have to know it in minor. Now we have a combination of different minor scales. We have the natural minor, the harmonic minor, and the melodic minor together here. So we have a 1 minor 7, a 2 half diminished, a flat 3 major, a 4 minor, a 5 dominant 7, a flat 6 major, and a 7 diminished that leads back to the 1 minor. So you have to know all of that in all 12 keys like the back of your hand. You also need to know the circle of fifths and fourths. Here's the fourths: C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, C. So you need to know all of that like the back of your hand. Once you have mastered that, you can take a common song form like Hallelujah. I'm going to play the first 4 bars. Actually, first 8. And you can instead think of that as 1, 6, 1, 6, 4, 5, 1, 5. Here are those Roman numerals, and I'm going to do one final example where I play that in F major. So 1, 6, 1, 6, 4, 5, 1, 5. So there we go. To summarize, that is a crash course into how to transpose a song. You have to know the number system, you have to know it in major and minor, and you have to know your circle of fourths and fifths and all 12 keys, and then you just think in numbers and go to any key that you choose. How to find relative minor. So relative minor is an amazing way to go to a new tonality, a new feeling, a new timbre without changing keys, and it is super common. Let me show you a common use example before we study the theory. So in this song, Greensleeves, we start in a minor key. Okay, and then the next section, we start in the relative major. Okay, so the minor is E minor and the relative major is G major. So you can go both ways. You could be in G major and go to the relative minor, which is E minor, or you could be in E minor and go to the relative major, which is G major. So let's take a look at the theory of how this works. So a relative minor is a scale that is contained within the major scale, hence the word relative. So if I play a C major scale, if I play the same scale starting from A instead, so this is the exact same notes, we get a relative minor. So a quick way of figuring out the relative minor on guitar, if you have a note, let's say C, you move down 3 frets. 1, 2, 3, now we're on A, that's our relative minor. Okay? Another way you could do it is you can go up a major 6th. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the 6th note of the major scale, you also get A, that's your relative minor. And that works wherever you go. I'm going to do it in one more position. How about you're in A major? Let's go down 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. F sharp is our relative minor. If I went up to the 6th note of the A major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have the same thing. So that is how to find your relative minor. Let's look at one more super popular example. So you're going to recognize this. So this is Für Elise, and it's in A minor. And then lo and behold, when we go to the second time ending bar to the next part of the song, we're in the relative major, we're in C major, right? So we've gone from A minor to C major. So relative minor, to summarize, is a great way of creating interest in your music without changing keys. Everyone uses it, from Beethoven to Taylor Swift, and you must know how to do it. So the 4 minor chord, what is it? Well, it is a common harmonic trait that allows you to create interest in your chord progressions with minimal effort, and it is used all the time by professional musicians. So let me give you an example of what that sounds like. In the key of C, I'm doing a 1 chord and then a 6 chord, and then I'm going to go to the 4 chord and then check out the 4 minor. Beautiful, leading back to the 1 again. So I'm going to show you the theory of why that works. So when you do the 4 minor, you're doing a chord that is outside of the key, and it's really creating a stronger movement to the 1 chord, because it's the equivalent of taking a dominant chord and doing a dominant with a flat 9 and a suspended 4th to lead to the 1, which is a much more colorful and convincing way to lead back to the 1 chord. So I'm going to finish by doing a practical example of Post Malone using this technique in his popular song Circles. So here's that chord progression. So at the end there we have a 4 minor that leads perfectly back to the 1 chord again. So there you have it, that's the 4 minor. It is a great way to create some harmonic interest and color to lead back to the 1 chord. The number system is a way of communicating chord progressions just like this in a professional manner so that you can change keys, and it's great for when you're working with singers. So the chord progression I was just doing is a 1, 5, 6, 4, and it's used for thousands of songs. So if you know the number system, you can go up and down freely. So how about I go up a 4th? So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this in 2 minutes. Here we go. So first off, you need to know the theory. The number system is based off of the major scale, and you need to know the chords that are within that. So you need to know 1 major, 2 minor, 3 minor, 4 major, 5 dominant, 6 minor, 7 half diminished, and then back to the 1. So you need to be able to say that up and back super quick. Then if someone says to you, hey, let's play a 4, 5, 6, 2, 1, 5, you can go. And you could do that in any key. I'm going to do it in one more key. How about I do it in the key of F? 4, 5, 6, 2, 1, 5. So this is the exact same thing in minor keys. So minor keys, you have to do a combination of natural minor, harmonic minor, and melodic minor, and then you get the chords at the bottom of this sheet right now. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate those for you. You have a 1 minor, a 2 half diminished, a flat 3 major, a 4 minor, a 7 dominant, a flat 6 major, a 7 diminished, and then back to a 1 minor 7. So you need to be able to say that forwards and back. So we're going to finish now with a chord progression in a minor key, and I'm going to show you how to change keys. So let's say someone says, let's play a 1, flat 3, flat 6, flat 3. That would sound like this in G minor. And I'm going to do it one more time in A minor this time. So that was the number system in 2 minutes. So just to recap, you need to know the numbers in major and minor and all 12 keys, and then you can change keys in a second. Pentatonic scales are powerful. There's so much that you can do with them. So a pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale, and it's often the first scale that guitar players will learn. This box shape. So I'm going to show you how to apply it in even more situations. So first off, let's do the theory. So pentatonic means a 5-note scale. So the word penta originates from Greece, which means 5. And there's 2 main types of pentatonics that people use. There's the major pentatonic, which sounds like this. And then there's the minor pentatonic, which sounds like this. So as a guitar player, I personally like to think of minor pentatonics, and I'm going to share why the pentatonic is a great scale to use, and then show you a super advanced way that you can create amazing colors using just pentatonics. So first of all, there's no avoid notes. If we think we're in the key of A minor, right, and we have an A natural minor scale, if you're improvising and you play an F, it sounds terrible, right? You have to resolve it to the E in order for it to sound good. Now with a pentatonic scale, none of the notes are going to sound bad, so there's no avoid notes. So that's why it's great. Now let me show you a super powerful way that you can use this over a 2-5-1 in the key of C, D minor, G7, C. You can use pentatonics moving up in half steps. So over the D minor, you can use A minor pentatonic. Over the G7, you can use B flat. And then over C major, B minor pentatonic. And you get a super colorful sound for each of them. So that was a summary of the pentatonic scales, where they came from, and how you can use them to create amazing colors. The pentatonics are super powerful, and you should take them seriously. So I'm going to talk about CESH, the secret of CESH. Now, CESH is short for contrapuntal elaboration of static harmony, and you probably recognize this chord progression, which is from one of the most famous examples of CESH, which is Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. So part of the reason why that riff is so iconic is because we have this moving line, a chromatic moving line, within the chord structure. And I'm going to show you the theory of how to do that, and I'm going to share with you a bunch of other instances of this exact same technique. So first of all, the theory is if you take any chord, for example, we're going to take an A minor, and then you move one of the notes within that chord up half a step or down half a step again and again and again, you're going to change the quality of the chord. So we could go from an A minor to an A minor major to an A minor 7 to an A minor 6. And that's exactly what happens in Stairway to Heaven. Other places that you've heard this before are in the James Bond theme, when you have a bass line playing, and then underneath is this chord progression, where we're going from E minor to E minor flat 6, E minor 6, E minor flat 6. That's also a use of CESH. And then one final example for you before we finish here. My Funny Valentine, a great jazz standard, has the exact same chord progression. We're going from a C minor major to a C minor to a C minor major to a C minor 7 to a C minor 6. And quite often this is done in the bass line as well. So that would sound like this. So that is CESH, aka contrapuntal elaboration of static harmony. And what you're doing is you're taking a static harmony like a minor chord, and you're moving one of the notes up half a step, up half a step, up half a step, or just moving it up and down to create some amazing sounds. Triads over bass notes are an amazing way to create really beautiful sounds and also to communicate specific voicings to band members. So I'm going to give you one common use example now and then go straight into the theory of how to do it. So you can create a beautiful sounding major 9 chord by doing a triad on the 5th degree of the major scale. So if you're in the key of G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, D is the 5th, do a D triad over a G, you've got yourself a beautiful sounding major chord. So let's have a look at the theory. So you can create these triads over bass notes to do major sounds and dominant sounds. So if you did a D over a C, so a triad from the 2nd, you would get a major sound. If you did an E over C, a triad from the 3rd, you would get a major sharp 5 sound. If you did a G over C, a triad from the 5th, you would get a major sound as well. So now let's do the dominant sounds. If you did a D flat, a triad from the flat 2, you get a dominant sound. If you did an F sharp, a triad from the sharp 4, you get a dominant sound. And if you did an A, a triad from the 6, you also get a dominant sound. So let's learn some specific voicings on guitar, and I'll show you how you could use them. So a D over C can be played like this. And that's just a nice major sound. An E over C can be played like this. And that's a tense major sound. And then finally a G over C can be played like this, which is a nice, beautiful major sound. Now the dominant sounds I'm going to resolve to F, because all of these are going to sound like a C dominant. So D flat over C would sound perfect resolving to F major, or, okay? Let's do A over C, so we're going to voice that like this. Resolve again to F major, beautiful resolution. Last one, we are going to do F sharp over C. So for this chord, for this voicing, it's going to be like this, and then resolving to an F major 7. So there you have it. That is triads over bass notes. We did 3 that can be used for major chords and 3 that can be used for dominant chords. So a tritone substitution is a chord substitution, and it's a very common one, and it creates a fantastic color, and I'm going to teach you exactly how to do it right now. So a regular 2-5-1 in the key of C would be D minor, G7, and C. Now a tritone substitute gives a chromatic movement. We're going to go from D minor to D flat 7, so a tritone away from G, and that leads beautifully to the 1 major to the C. So let's have a look at more theory of why this works. So first of all, G7 and its tritone D flat 7 share the same 3rd and 7th. So that's reason number 1 why this works. Reason number 2 is it creates a chromatic bass movement. So instead of moving like this, the bass moves like this, which sounds beautiful to our ears. The final reason why it works, if you do a D flat 7 over G, it's the same as doing a G7 altered, which also leads to C really, really strongly and beautifully. And last point, before we look at a case study in a song, it works in minor keys as well because it gives that altered sound. So let's have a look at a popular use in the jazz standard Autumn Leaves. So I'm going to play the regular chords up top here. Okay, now I'm going to do the tritone 2-5. So we start the same, and then here's the tritones. Much nicer movement. And then he would start again. So there you have tritones. We explained the theory, we explained it in C major, and we did a case study of Autumn Leaves. So get into your tritone chords. So what is the clave? The clave is a fundamental rhythm that is used in Cuban music and Afro-Cuban music and Latin music, and it's also an amazing way to create interest with syncopated rhythms in any genre. So I'm going to share with you the most common example that you would hear, and it is called the son clave. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you listen to songs like Valerie by Amy Winehouse, or a super obvious example, Who Run the World, Girls by Beyonce, it uses that exact same clave. Much faster, but that exact same clave. So let's have a look at the theory of where this comes from and the different types of claves that exist. So first you have the son clave, which I just did. Let's listen to it one more time. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then next we have the rumba clave. Now the only difference between them is the 4 is changed to a 4 and. So that sounds like this. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So not as common in pop music, but very, very common in Latin music. So the effect is we get the sense of a polyrhythm, almost like a hemiola, because we're accenting beat 4, but we also get the weak beats accented. So beat 4 is accented, 2 and is accented, and also the 2 in the second bar is accented, and that's why it sounds so good. So the final variation I'm going to leave you with is a son clave in 2-3 and a rumba clave in 2-3. So you just flip around the 2 and the 3. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then the rumba clave would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So you've just flipped those rhythms around. So the final thing I'm going to leave you with in this explanation is a practical example in which I do a chord progression 1, 4, 6, 5, 2, and I'm going to do the clave, and it's going to instantly make it sound hip and awesome just because the clave is such a fantastic rhythm. So here that is. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so instantly makes the chord progression sound much cooler than it ordinarily would. So the harmonic minor scale, what is it and when would you actually use the scale? That's what I'm going to go into today. So first of all, the most common use example for the harmonic minor scale would be over a minor major chord, and that's what I was doing at the start there. I was playing the chord and just improvising with the scale. Another super common use example for the scale is over a G7 flat 9. Okay, and that would be actually the fifth mode of the harmonic minor scale, and we're going to get into that in 1 second. So let's have a look at the theory of where the scale comes from and how it's different to the natural minor. So we have our harmonic minor scale here versus the natural minor scale here. So the natural minor scale has a flat 3, a flat 6, and a flat 7. And the harmonic minor scale has a flat 3, a flat 6, and a natural 7. Now the scale tone chords for the harmonic minor are minor major, half diminished, flat 3 major sharp 5, minor 7, dominant 7, flat 6 major 7, a 7 diminished, and then back to the 1 minor major. Now the characteristic sound of the harmonic minor scale is this minor third. So when we have the flat 6 and the natural 7, we get this large interval of a minor third, and that is really the sound of the scale. That's what gives the effect and the sound of the scale. So now I'm going to finish up by showing you where you can use it and giving you some practical examples. So you can use it over a regular minor 7. It doesn't have to be a minor major. You could use it particularly when it's the tonic. So if you're in the key of C minor and you see a minor 7 chord, you could use it there. Now, here is a common chord progression. This is a song called Blue Bossa by Kenny Dorham. And so I'm going to improvise now using the scale over any C minor. And then you can also see here we have a G7 altered, so it could be a G7 flat 9. So the scale will work over that chord as well. So I'm going to finish by improvising just once through this chord progression, and I'll call out to you when I'm using the scale. Here we go. Just about to use the scale. Here we go. Works perfectly. Now I'm in a different key. Now back to the scale. So that's a quick lesson on what the harmonic minor scale is, the theory of it, and how you can actually practically apply it. Accidentals are the notes between notes. On piano, if you're in the key of C, you have all of the white notes, and then the accidentals are the black notes, which are in between each of those notes within the key. So we're going to look at what those are today. I'm going to show you how they're notated and some common use examples in popular music. So first of all, we need to know the symbols of them. So you have sharps, which looks like a hashtag, flats, which looks like a lowercase b, and then a natural sign, which cancels out those accidentals. So let's say you have the note C in music, and you want to have the black note just above it. Then you would have a sharp, like this. Let's have a look at a flat. So let's say you had D, the next note up, and you wanted to go down a note, you would need a flat. Now, it's interesting to know that C sharp and D flat are the same thing, right? So let's have a look at the keyboard again. If you're on C and you play a C sharp, it's this accidental. If you're on a D and you play a D flat, it's this accidental. So accidentals have the same, they have two different names for each note, and that is called enharmonics. So the one other thing I'm going to explain before I give you a practical example is this natural sign. So the natural sign cancels it out. So let's say this was a quarter note and then you wanted a D again, but you wanted it to be a regular D, you would have to put a natural sign, otherwise you would have assumed that it was also still a flat. So I'm going to give you one practical example on the guitar. This is a very common use. So in a major pentatonic, it's great to add the flat 3 to give a bluesy sound. So the flat 3 is here, it's an accidental because we're in the key of C, and then you can also see the natural sign being used because we also have the natural third as well. So I'm going to play through this scale to show you what that sounds like. So here is that scale. Okay? So there you have it. That is accidentals. That's one common use example in a scale, and that is how to write them on sheet music. So if you've enjoyed this video and you've got value out of it, I suggest going to pickupmusic.com where you can get a free 14-day trial and dive way deeper into music theory with my Music Theory Bootcamp. So the bootcamp is split up into 5 levels and every level has 14 different days. Now each level is similar to taking an entire semester at a college, and it is college level theory that you're going to be learning, so you will really be a master if you stick with me from levels 1 all the way through to level 5. So if you're serious about becoming a better artist, a better musician, a better guitar player, and understanding music theory, head to pickupmusic.com now and get your free trial and become a member.